Okay, this is the continuation of the NumPy tutorials. So we had covered couple of tutorials earlier. So this is in continuation to that. So today we are going to start with the representation of missing data. We know in Python none is an object that represents the missing data. Now, if we use none in NumPy array, it cannot be used like arbitrarily. It can only be used with an array which is of data type object. So let's say we take an array ARR and it has elements 5, 7, none, and 9, and we just simply print it. Now, if you see the data type of this particular array, that is the data type of the elements of this array is object type. What it means that we cannot perform any aggregate functions like sum, min, max, etc. on this particular array, because if we perform this array, then it will error out. For example, if I want to just sum the elements of this such that it ignores none and find out the sum, then it will not work out. It will simply just give an array np.sum. If I give array, then it will give that will give an error because of the presence of none, which is a Python object representation of the missing data. So let's take another object, which is nan. It's an acronym for not a number. It is used to represent the missing numerical data. So let's say we take an array 2 and it has elements 5, 6, 7, np.nan and 9. So nan represents the missing data here. And let's say we just simply print this array. So this is the array, it is get printed. And now you notice the d type, that is the data type of the elements of this array, is float. Whereas in the previous case, when we were using none, we found that the data type was object. Now, because data type is float, now we can, if we run aggregate functions on it like np, min, max, and sum, it will not error out. However, the answer will be nan in all of these cases. So the basic difference is that we don't get error, we just simply get nan, and that we have to fix it. Now, there are some special aggregate functions which can perform operations on the given array by ignoring the missing data. So let's say we have array and it has one element as nan, and rest of the elements are the values. Now we want to find out the sum of all these elements of the array ignoring the nan. So we can use np.nansum. So it just simply sums it up and give the result. There is np.nanmin. Find out some minimum of these, which is 5. So output is 5. Then np.nanmax, and it found the maximum of these elements, which is 9. So here we 9. So we can use these aggregate functions. These are the special aggregate functions which are designed to ignore any missing data like nan, and then they simply give out the result based on the rest of the data. Now let's say in a given array, and if we want to find out in a quick way whether any element is nan or not in this given array. So what we can do, we can use np.isNan. IsNan is a function, and we pass in it the array. If any element is present in the array is a nan, then it will return true corresponding to that, and then we are using np.any. So if any value is true inside this, then the output will be true. So what it means, if any element within this array is a nan, then the output will be true. It means that this particular array has at least one nan value. Now to find out how many elements are there which are actually nan, what we can do is just simply do np.isnan and then the array name and just sum it up. It will give you the number of elements which are not a number in this array. In this case, we have 2 nans, so the output is 2. So we can also find out the location where the nan values are present. We just simply say np.isnan and the array, we pass array to it. So what we get is false, false, true, false, false, true. What it means, this is not nan, not nan, this is nan, and similarly this is not nan, not nan, and this is nan. So wherever nan is present in the array, corresponding to that location will be represented as true, is the output of this. Another way is we can replace a nan with some value. Let's say we want to replace all the nans with value minus 9999. Then we can just simply use the Boolean indexing. What we've done here is we have taken the array2, and within the square brackets, that is within, we specify the indexing method in a Boolean way. That is, we are doing np.isNan and the array2. So for whichever elements it returns true, that is whichever are nan, those values will get replaced by minus 9999. So that is the one way to convert the nan into some value. Next, we are going to cover is the data type conversion. So let's say we have array in the float and we want to convert it into integer. Then what we have to do is just simply say array name, and then we use as type, and within the bracket we specify the data type in which we want to convert. Let's say if it is integer, then the output will be an array which is of integer data type. Okay, so we are converting a float type of array into integer by using as type function. So we are specifying array x and dot as type into integer. So you will notice that it removes the decimal part of these values. So the output is 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. That is, it got converted into integer. Another way is to convert a string into a float. So let's say we have some values, numerical values which are in the string format, and we want to perform some operations on it. Then we would want to convert it into float. So what we are doing here is so this is the array y. So we are saying y dot as type, and the float is the data type in which we want to convert it to. And in the output we get the array which is of elements of the float type, and now we can perform some numeric operations on this particular array. Another very important concept is creating array based on the sliding windows. Let's say we have an array A which has 10 elements. Okay, now we want to create uh, another array from this particular array, such that the elements of this new array are created based on the sliding window. That is, let's say we want the first row to have elements 0 1, the next row should have 1 2, and the next row should have 2 3, and so on. So in this way it's like a sliding window which is sliding from left to right, and by taking, and the window size is 2. So we are taking two elements in each window, and then we are sliding one position towards the right. So this kind of thing can be achieved by using as underscore strided. So what we have to do, we have to import from numpy.lib.stride underscore tricks, import as underscore strided function. So the way it works is we specify as underscore strided, and then the array, that is the base array on which we want to apply this function. Then the shape is the output, that is what is the shape of the output that we are looking for. So in this case we are looking for an output which should have 8 rows and 2 columns. So if you see here, it has 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 rows, and it has 2 columns. Okay, and then we specify the stride. Now this stride is in the form of the bytes. Now just to understand it, how this value is giving 4 4 comma 4. Let's have a look at the output. So within a row, to move from one element to next element, that is from 0 to 1, because it's an integer type, so it takes 4 bytes. So uh, so from 0 to 1, we make a jump, or we make a stride of 4 bytes, and then we reach the next element. So this 4 represents basically how many bytes it takes to make a stride from one column to next column within a row. Now when we have to jump from one row to another row, what is the jump, or what is the stride we have to take? So here in this case, again, it's like from 0 to 1. Here we are going from 0 to 1, and similarly from 1 to 2. So 0 to 1, 1 to 2. So we are jumping just one element, which is the stride of 4 only. So here the stride of 4 comma 4 means we are just moving one element. We are jumping just one element at a time. in the column as well as in the row, and then we are creating the array. So that's how we are given the stride as 4 comma 4, and then it created the array. Now let's say we want array in such a way that the output should be 0 comma 1, and then that is in the first row we get 0 comma 1, in the second row we get 2 comma 3, in the next row we get 4 comma 5, and so on. So in this case, we'll make a slight changes in the stride. So let's see, as underscore strided is the function, a is the array on which we want to apply this function, shape is in the output we want 5 rows and 2 columns, that is fine. Now the stride is 8 comma 4. So how we give 8 comma 4? If you see here, from 0 to 1, that is in the columns, we are just moving one element. So from 0 we go to 1, from 2 we go to 3, from 4 we go to 5. So we are just jumping to the immediate next element within a row. So it's a stride of 4, that is 4 bytes. Okay, now to reach to the next element of a row, that is from 0 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 6. So if you see 0 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 6, 6 to 8, from 0 to 2 we are jumping 1 2. So we are jumping two elements to reach from 0 to 2. That is, we are making a stride of 4 and 4 8. Similarly, from 2 to 4 we reach by making a stride of 4 and 4 8 bytes. So the first axis has a straight has a 8 bytes as a stride value, and then if we run this we get the output like 0 to 1, and then 2 to 3, and then 4 to 5, 6 to 7, 8 to 9. Similarly, based on this array, we can create a array which is of uh, shape 8 comma 3, that is, it has 8 rows and 3 columns in it. And let's say we give a stride of 4 comma 4. What it means, uh, within the column of each row we are just moving to the next element. So this 4 represents that particular strides or the number of bytes, and to reach to the first element of the next row we are again just moving, shifting by one element. So we are making a stride of 4 bytes only. So this 4 represents the number of bytes we have to make a jump or make a stride of to reach to the next element of the to reach to the first element of the next row. So in this way we create an array of 0 1 2 1 2 3 2 3 4. So this function comes in handy when we want to create this kind of arrays which are like sliding window base, that is, they are sliding from left to right based on the window size and the jump that we want to make. Let's say we have another array which is a two-dimensional array. So we have x is the array which is a two-dimensional. It has it looks like this. So 0 1 1 0 1 10 11 20 21 30 31 40 41 50 51. That is, it has 1 2 3 4 5 6 rows, and each row is having two columns. Okay, now let's say our desired output is like this. That is, we want 1 2 3 4 5 6 6 columns, and we want 1 2 3 4 4 rows. So to just help you understand, let's say we flatten this x. So we say x dot flatten, and all the elements now will be flattened in a single array. Okay, now we can find out the stride of x. Just simply say x dot strides, and -1 will give 4. That is, 4 bytes is used to jump from one element to another element because it's integer type. Now to convert it into this output, desired output, again we have to use as underscore strided. Okay, we are using it. Now x is the array on which we have to apply. What is the shape of the output? The shape of the output is 1 2 3 4 rows, and 1 2 3 4 5 6. So 4 comma 6, this is the shape. Now in strides we have given 8 comma 4. So why we have given 8 comma 4? So let's check it out. So within a row, okay, within a row, to reach from one element to next element, what is the jump that we are making? For example, from 0 we are going to 1, then from 1 to 10, 10 to 11, 11 to 20. So 0 to 1, 1 to 10, 10 to 11, 11 to 20, and so on. So it means within a row we are just simply moving to the next element to So it means we are making a jump of 4, right? So because each jump is of 4 bytes, so if we make a jump of 4 bytes, we will reach from here to here, here to here, and so on. So in this way we will move along the uh, uh, columns within a row. So this 4 represents this. Now, why we have given 8? Let's say, what is the first element of this row? It is 0. What is the first element of this row? It is 10. So from 0 we are going to 10. From 10 we are going to 20. So now let's check it out in this flattened table. From 0 we are going to 10. From 10 we are going to 20. So that is from 0 to 10 we are jumping like 4 bytes plus 4 bytes, that is 8 bytes. From 10 to 20 we are jumping 4 plus 4, 8. So in this way, in the first axis, that is axis along the rows, we are jumping or making a stride by the 8 bytes. So we have given 8 here. So in this way, if we give, we will get the array which is of our desired shape. So this function basically helps to create arrays of the sliding windows based on our requirement. Another important function is the Einstein summation. So this is actually a very quick way to perform operations on arrays. The tricky part is it has a slightly different notation that we have been learning so far. Another good thing is there is always an equivalent function. So either we can use Einstein summation, or we can just follow our normal conventional NumPy functions. But good to know about it, because when we are dealing with arrays of very large size, then this works very fast compared to our normal NumPy functions. So to start with, let's say we have an array A, and it has 10 element. It is of shape 3 comma 3. Okay. Now if we want to find out the sum along the columns, that is we want to sum along, that is we want the sum, that is 3 plus 2 plus 1, that is 6, 6 plus 5 plus 4, 15, 9 plus 8 plus 7, 24. So how do we do this? In Einstein summation way, we do it like this: np dot einsum. This is what we have to write. Then within single quote, we write ij. So I and j basically represent the axes, because it's a two-dimensional array. So I write I and j. I represents first axis, and that is x is equals to 0, and j represents the another axis, that is x is equals to 1. And then the arrow, and on the right side of the arrow we give which axis we want. We want axis along the rows, that is we want rows in it. Okay. So whichever axis is omitted, that is not given after the right hand side of arrow is omitted, and its elements get summed up. And we are applying this operation on the array A. So we are omitting here j. J means the columns. So what we are doing is we just have to sum it up and represent it as a form of rows. So the columns get summed up. So 3 to 1 gets summed up into 6, and 6 5 4 gets summed up into 15, 9 8 7 gets summed up into 24. The equivalent is like np dot sum, where x is equals to 1. So it's like finding the sum along the x is equals to 1, like this way along the columns. Yeah, we can find it out. So this is the equivalent. Now simply if we have to find the sum along the rows, that is in this way along the rows, then we give np dot in sum. Then within single quote we give I comma j, which are the representation of the axis 1 and axis 0 and axis 1. Okay. And in the output we are saying it should have only one axis j, that is uh, along the j, which represents this. And then we are given the array A, so it will just sum it up. So 7 plus 4 11 plus 1 12, and then 8 5 13 and 2 15, and similarly 9 6 15 and 3 18. So equivalent is np dot sum A, where axis is 0. Now we can quickly transpose an array by just flipping the axes. So we say np dot in sum, within quotes we give ij. So I and j gets transposed into j comma I. So it's like substituting row and columns. Then we get the transpose. So equivalent is a dot t. Now to find out the diagonal matrix, what we have to give is np.insum within single quote I, and the output contains only I. It means give only the diagonal elements. So the diagonal elements of A are 1, 5, and 9. So it will give you the diagonal elements 1, 5, and 9, and its equivalent is np.diag and A. So it will also give you the diagonal elements. We can sum the diagonal elements of a matrix just by giving np.insum within quotes I. So and arrow after arrow we are not giving anything. If we are not giving any axis on the right hand side of arrow, it means that we have to sum up all the elements. So it will give the output as a diagonal elements, then it will just simply sum it up. So with diagonal elements we got as 159, and then it will sum it up as 9, 5, 14, and 115, and it will give you the sum. Equivalent is np dot diag A and then sum. Let's say we have two arrays A and B, and we want to find out the multiplication of elements of the matrix. It's not the dot product, it's just simply the multiplication of the elements at the corresponding position. Like 1 gets multiplied by 0 gets 0, 1 gets multiplied by 1, then the output is 1, 2 gets multiplied by 1, is output is 2, in this way. So we can just simply say A star B, then it will do this other way. Otherwise using this INSUM notation, we can give it like this. Ij are the representation of axis 0 and axis 1, and the output also we are looking for Ij and A comma B, so it will just simply do element wise multiplication. Now if we want to do the dot matrix, like the matrix multiplication we do in the linear algebra, okay, we just give it like this: np dot insum Ij. This Ij represents the axis of A, and Jk, this represents the axis, that is the dimension of B. And we know two matrices can be multiplied in linear algebra only if uh, the column of the first matrix is equivalent to the rows of the second matrix. That is Ij and Jk should be same, and the output we give to dimension which is of the form of Ik, that is the rows of the first matrix and the column of the second matrix. So this is the output Ik. So we get the dot matrix uh, output, that is dot multiplication. So its equivalent is np dot dot a comma b, that will also give the dot matrix. There is another term called as the convolution. What it means is that there is a, let's say there is a bigger array of size 5 comma 5, that is it has 5 rows and 5 columns, and we have a smaller array of size 3 comma 3, and what we want is to create the sub matrices from this bigger matrix of the same size, that is 3 by 3. That is, we create one matrix of 0 1 2 5 6 7 10 11 12. Similarly another matrix 1 2 3 6 7 8 11 12 13. So basically we create many sub matrices from this bigger matrix of the size 3 by 3, and we multiply all such sub matrices with this matrix, and finally whatever we get, we just sum it up and then we produce the final result. So that kind of thing we can do by using the combination of INSUM and the strides trick that we learned earlier. So what we are doing is we are just for the ease of understanding, we are simply flattening this matrix table to see what its elements look like once it is flattened. Now, as we know, in the as underscore strided function, we have to give the base matrix on which we have to apply. So we are given matrix. Then this is the shape on which this is the shape of the output, okay, that we are looking for. So how do we calculate it? So we calculate it like we are subtracting the shape of matrix and this filter shape is the shape of this convolution matrix, and we are just putting it inside the tuple, and then we are getting the shape as 3333. And to calculate the strides, what we have to do is just simply multiply matrix dot strides by 2, and then we get the strides of this convolution strides, and then Using this method as underscore started, we create submatrices. That is, we create submatrices of 3 by 3 size from the bigger matrix, and then we just simply have to apply np.I in sum. Ij represents the the smaller matrix, the convoluted filter matrix that we wanted to multiply, and submatrices represent each of the 3 by 3 matrix that we created from the bigger matrix, and we are multiplying it, and in the output we are getting the final matrix, which is the sum of all the product of the submatrices with the convoluted filter matrix. So this is slightly tricky and not very straightforward to understand, but if we use it, then it will become easy for us to understand. Uh, the good thing is there is always an alternate NumPy function is available. So in case this there is a bit of confusion in understanding this einsum method, then we can always go back to the normal conventional functions of the NumPy. I think that's it for the session. Okay, thank you.